Live from downtown Detroit, Local 4 News at 11 starts now.
A house that's a mess, a mother who displays little emotion, and the dean of students who told the courtroom had the Oxford school shooter's parents told them they just bought a gun for their son and that he had been having hallucinating thoughts. Things would have been very different that terrible November day. It is the first trial of its kind. The parents of a school shooter are being charged with involuntary manslaughter.
And Jennifer Crumbleys' jury trial now in its fourth day, and now new testimony shedding light on what it was like inside the Crumbly house. Mara McDonald live downtown tonight. The key here, though, for prosecutors, Mara, is not to prove that the Crumbleys were bad parents, but instead that their actions were grossly negligent, right?
Devin, that's right. I mean, being a lousy parent isn't going to be what gets a conviction here, but the prosecutors are building their case, as we've seen over the last few days. And today, introducing new video of Jennifer Crumbly in the aftermath of that shooting. Let me show you. In the immediate aftermath of the shooting, a search warrant is served at the Crumbly home. Jennifer Crumbly's placed in the back of a squad car as the search is ongoing. The deputy inside tells her she's not under arrest, and they talk.
Do you know that he knows how to handle a firearm?
Yeah, I think we're taking gun range.
Okay. So you teach him
That's our hobby, that we go to gun range. I mean, that's what we do.
She explains how they just bought him a gun, which he has used to murder 4 classmates. Detectives have said they find her reaction to what her son has done as atypical.
Kind of anger, he's never exerted anything. Like, he's just like one of those mellow, laid-back kids. We've always had a hope to help talk about stuff. Like, I don't get it.
That's what she tells the deputy after being called to the high school earlier in the day because her son was watching violent videos of people being gunned down, researching ammo, and drawing disturbing images on a worksheet. The dean of students, Nicholas Ejak, told the courtroom none of it struck him as a disciplinary issue, but his teachers sure were worried.
Did you ask to see the violent video that Mrs. Crumbly's son had been watching while he was in class?
I did not ask to see that, as it wasn't necessary.
Nor did he look in the shooter's backpack, something he told the court would have changed had he known their son had easy access to a gun that was just purchased for him, as well as hallucinating. Then prosecutors started showing pictures, and a lot of them, of what they cataloged inside the Crumbleys' home. The shooter had 2 bedrooms, both a mess, littered with targets, violent games, junk in piles, as well as a whiskey bottle. The family did have a gun safe. The code? 000. Back here live, everything that has come out in court over the last several days has been, I'm sure, nothing but painful to all those parents and students up in Oxford. But as somebody who has covered these school board meetings, who has interviewed these parents repeatedly and heard them ask over and over, why were these red flags missed? Why wasn't his backpack searched? Why was he allowed back in class? To listen to the testimony today of that dean of students, that had to have been just excruciating. We're live downtown tonight. I'm Mara McDonald, Local 4.
Yeah, no doubt, Mara. All right, don't forget, you can tune in to live testimony during this trial on Local 4 Plus and our website at clickondetroit.com. We're streaming the entire proceeding. You can also see expert analysis on the case as events occur.
All right, things have improved since the snowfall we saw this morning.
Well, now another problem, and this is the way it's been lately, just one thing lined up like in a bullpen. Now it's fog. Let's check in with Kim.
It's definitely been a rough January. We've got fog out there now, a dense fog advisory for Livingston, Genesee, Lapeer, and Sanilac counties. It does not include the rest of southeast lower Michigan, but that does not mean that the rest of southeast lower Michigan doesn't have some dense fog. It just doesn't reach advisory criteria yet, but it could be expanded as we are seeing reduced visibilities all over Metro Detroit. Still 3-mile visibility in the city, but you go to Pontiac, it's down to 1 mile, 0.3 of a mile in Howell, 2-mile visibility in Ann Arbor, although last hour it was at a 0.5 mile visibility. And then you go a little bit farther to the west and you can see definitely reduced visibilities in Lansing, Jackson, and in Adrian. So a little worse on the west side than the east side, but all over Metro Detroit, we are seeing that fog. We also still have the flood warning in effect for Hamburg Township. Now that we have snow on the ground, there'll be some melting snow, and that's going to add to the flood problems across southeast lower Michigan. 36 right now downtown, just above freezing everywhere else, but we will drop to that freezing mark overnight tonight. I'll tell you what that means for your morning commute, and we'll talk about a little sunshine that's going to be a welcome change for the weekend. We'll do that in a few minutes.
All right, Kim. Detroit has struggled for years when it comes to public transit. That has groups coming together to see what can be done to try to improve things on that front.
Jacqueline Francis was at tonight's State of Transit in southeast Michigan. She's live with where things stand. Jacqueline.
There was no big public announcement or unveiling tonight, but what there was a group of passionate people and even some lawmakers talking about how they work every day to expand and improve public transit in the region. It was a time to talk about where Detroit is headed when it comes to public transit. Buses, the people mover, the Q line, all of it. The latest addition being the direct bus line from downtown Detroit to Metro Airport.
Yeah. Woo! All right. So we're gonna give it a run, trying to get that up and running by the end of March. Okay, good. Before March Madness and certainly before the drafts.
Transportation Riders United, or TRUE, put on the event acknowledging the barriers like money.
Our region continues to spend just 1/3 of what most major metropolitan areas spend on transit.
Looking at where state dollars are spent.
For decades, the state has either not been funding transportation or has been putting it almost exclusively into roads and neglecting transit.
State lawmakers passionate about improving transit shared their thoughts on why it's important.
Transit investment is economic development, and we have to get out of this mindset that it is just giving money to companies and hoping for the best.
We have to do more. This is how we're going to keep our younger generation from moving out.
The NFL draft coming to Detroit in a couple months is going to be big for all transit in the city, and they hope to build on that momentum throughout the year. Reporting live from Rosa Parks Transit Center, Jacqueline Francis, Local 4.
A lot to take in there. All right, Jacqueline. The upcoming April race for the State House races in the 13th and 25th districts becoming clearer tonight. A special election held today, of course, after two former lawmakers left the legislature to become mayors of Warren and Westland.
So here's where things stand right now, according to the unofficial results released by the Wayne County Clerk. At this hour, votes in the 13th district are still being counted. But in the 25th district, it appears Peter Herzberg will get the Democratic nomination and Josh Powell will get the Republican nomination. Both the 13th and 25th districts have historically voted Democratic, so those candidates maybe have a little bit of an edge when it comes to the April election. All right, the state is asking a federal court to dismiss a lawsuit by Right to Life of Michigan, which seeks to repeal Proposal 3.
The lawsuit says when abortion rights were enshrined in the state's constitution, it created a, quote, super right to reproductive freedom. Proposal 3 was passed by Michigan voters back in 2022 by a wide margin following the Supreme Court's repeal of Roe v. Wade. Attorney General Dana Nessel says the plaintiffs in this case seek to undermine the will of Michigan voters, adding that we will not allow a small contingent of outspoken dissidents to overpower popular consensus, end of quote. Right to Life will get a chance to respond to the dismissal request before a federal court makes a ruling.
Police are asking for help in solving the case of a body that was found in a Canton neighborhood yesterday. Investigators say a 45-year-old man was found shot to death on Coppernick Road near I-275 just after midnight Monday. Police are now asking businesses and residents in that area to check their surveillance cameras and the footage from that night. If anyone can help, call Canton Police or 1-800-SPEAK-UP.
The funeral for a Michigan State trooper who was killed during a traffic stop last week is going to take place tomorrow. Funeral for Trooper Joel Popp will be held at 11 a.m. at the Saginaw Valley State University Ryder Center. Private service then will be held afterward. A GoFundMe was started to support Popp's wife and daughter. Currently has more than $60,000 in donations. Also worth noting, Governor Whitmer has ordered flags to fly at half-staff tomorrow. Well, General Motors recently announced that it earned just over $12 billion last year.
And that sheds light on what profit-sharing checks might look like for UAW members after spending most of the summer on strike. So workers will get up to $12,250 from those 2023 profits. That's down from last year. GM has about 45,000 hourly UAW workers in the U.S. Each worker is entitled to $1,000 for every $1 billion of the automaker's annual North America earnings. Checks will be sent out sometime in late February. Well, those numbers come out as President Biden and his team plan a trip to Michigan this week after the UAW gave his re-election campaign its endorsement last week. The White House says the president will be in the state Thursday for a political event, but the AP is reporting he will meet with union members. No word right now where exactly he will visit, but we will, of course, keep you posted.
JP Morgan Chase is investing $10 million more in Metro Detroit neighborhood, or rather Detroit neighborhoods, not Metro, but the city of Detroit. Money will help small businesses and housing developments in underserved neighborhoods around the city. Residents and developers will be able to apply for funding through the nonprofit Invest Detroit. That's been going on since 2014. The bank has made $200 million in philanthropic contributions to Detroit neighborhoods. The national blood shortage continues to have an impact on local patients. The winter weather making things even worse.
The weather has actually canceled several blood drives over the past few weeks, and that's making it difficult to meet the needs of patients and forcing doctors to make difficult choices.
We had 2 patients on the floor develop heavy bleeding. And because of this heavy bleeding, they required a number of different blood products, and we then had to go on shortage for that. So a couple hours later, I'm having a conversation with a liver transplant surgeon who has a patient in the operating room, and we're discussing if we're going to have enough blood to sustain that patient through that procedure.
Yeah. Well, the Red Cross says it is experiencing the lowest number of people donating blood in 20 years. So if you can donate, you can make an appointment on the redcrossblood.org website.
Terrible calculus for doctors to have to make
that
in the moment.
decision.
Yeah.